Hello friends, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions on all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Sunday. And we actually have a thought piece scheduled to drop this upcoming Sunday, so definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available on 10 different podcast platforms for your listening leisure, and we've provided you with access to the links in the description down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you are aware of every time we post. And of course, if you like these conversations and you want to keep them going, like, comment, and share this segment. Let's get into it. Allô les meufs et les mecs. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And this week our topic of discussion is mental health. And on the subject of mental health, I really want to talk about in this segment how to build a bridge from insecurity to confidence. And I do believe that insecurities can play a huge role in eroding our sense of mental health. If you are someone who has had to deal with anxiety, who's had to deal with depression, a lot of these things coincide with insecurities. If we are looking for ways to come out of feeling anxious, coming out from being in a really fear-informed headspace, the best way to go about it is to focus on the building blocks of confidence. And so that's what we are going to talk about this week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage my education, I'm going to leverage my professional and personal experience to give you the building blocks that will enable you to build a bridge from insecurity to confidence. Now, first, a caveat. All of us have insecurities. So when we think about the lens that I'm going to use in this conversation, I mean, you can take whatever lens you want. If you would consider yourself generally an insecure person, then, this is something that you could look at, at a broad scope. But I like to think that I am a confident person, and there's different areas in my life where I might have insecurities, and as a result of that, I can target those insecurities fairly distinctly and then build a bridge, build myself a roadmap for that specific insecurity, so that insecurity in and of itself, in a bit of a vacuum, I can build a bridge towards confidence. So I think that's more or less how I want us to take this video. A little bit of a practical exercise in how we can take specific insecurities that show up in the different spaces that we're in and build ourselves the foundation in order for those insecurities to transform into areas where we feel really confident. I think the first thing we should do here is level set, because all of us have a different nuanced view of what insecurity means. And the first thing that we need to do to level set is have a shared definition for the word insecurity. And so for me, at the deepest root of the word, an insecurity is our own uncertainty about our ability to perform and show up in a specific realm, in a specific domain, on a specific topic, feeling like we really know know what we're talking about or feeling like we can shine in that area. So it's really just not being sure of our ability, not being sure of the value that we can contribute in that specific vein. So I think that if it is the case that we're looking to transform or to convert those insecurities into confidence, it's really about thinking about what it is that you think is required to be valuable in that specific vein or to show up confidently in that specific vein, and then showing up for yourself by like building out those skill sets or building out those experiences, so that when you think about how many degrees of separation exist between you and your ability to feel confident in a given domain, you've covered the bases by your own definition. And I think that this is really important because all of us have a different idea, a different view of why someone should more or less feel confident in a specific vein. There are different things that we value in different topics. So when you think about what it is that you need to feel secure public speaking, the experiences that you think you ought to have, the lessons you think you ought to learn can translate very different for each person and still provide the same result. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing when we think about building a bridge from insecurity to confidence, is that each of us are going to build an individualized roadmap that is informed by our own belief system on what it is we feel we need to feel confident. And if we satisfy what our own assumptions are by way of what we think we need in order to cultivate confidence, we will find ourselves building up the confidence that we need in process as we act on those beliefs and as we build in those specific experiences that the confidence itself is coming. In this video, we're going to cover 4 tips that will help you build a bridge from insecurity to confidence. And I guess that is me covering my first tip, really, which is learn how far you are from your own point of reference, from where it is you'd like to be, and then evaluate the skill gap. So what skills you think that you need that will close the gap from where you are now to where it is you want to be. And that's a great way to make that assessment. And sometimes closing the gap is something that we can do really easily because that gap is about external credentials. So we know that we have to get, formal education, or we know that we have to do a practicum, or we need to complete an exam, or we need to have a specific certification, and that makes it kind of straightforward. Other times, if this skill is more of like an intrinsic skill, or is more to do with character development or intellectual development, there's a lot more creative license by way of how we get there. And sometimes how this translates is just setting up different goals to read specific books or to immerse yourself by way of the different opinions that are floating around in that specific vein, and then cultivating your own opinion based on the points of view that you expose yourself to. And then as you cultivate your point of view, you're getting a better sense of how your strengths are showing up. So what arguments or, in what ways that you're showing up really strong, which gives you a better sense of like what areas you really need to work on by way of ramping up your knowledge or going through that learning curve in order to close that gap. Another thing that I want you to take stock of as you build a bridge from insecurity to confidence is progress. And progress is something that you sense. It's a feeling more so than it is something that you can look at externally. And while externally we can build ourselves specific milestones to give ourselves a better sense of progress, but if you are moving forward and if you take the time to really go inward as you move towards a specific goal or objective, you get a sense of your progress. And I think that this is a really important activity to cultivate that self-awareness. When you get a sense of how much growing you're doing, even like small little baby steps, you recognize that with every step forward, with every little bit of experience that you gain, that's a little bit of insecurity lost as well. So when you put yourself through the motions, even if you're experiencing failure, even if you are tripping up, even if you're stumbling, you still need to think about how you can shift your attention from shortfalls to progress. And if you're focused, if your mindset is on progress and is on really isolating the small steps in progress that you're making, then you're really building yourself up to create confidence from the experience. But it's about where you put your focus, it's about where you put your attention. And when you are pushing towards an objective that really means something to you, you're trying to really focus on building confidence where previously you've been insecure, you want the focal point in that entire journey to be on progress, even if it's the smallest little step, to give yourself kudos and to celebrate yourself for every step forward you make, so that that journey will translate as you converting insecurity into confidence. My third point, and I call these tips, I call them points, or kind of points of reference based on my own experience in the ways that I have converted insecurities into confidence. And it's about the journey. And I think once you start on a journey that helps you grow and helps you push forward in ways that you weren't sure that you could, and you see that you're making progress and you're growing, even if it's in some of the smallest ways, you start to cultivate self-belief. And here's the thing about self-belief. Self-belief is quiet, but very powerful. And I think that a lot of the time, because we're not really doing things with the intention of converting insecurity to confidence, we don't recognize that when we're on a journey, when we're on a path that is really feeding into our growth, feeding into our sense of capability, allowing us to feel proud about the things that we're learning and the things that we're doing with the things that we're learning, is we don't realize just how much that experience and how much that self-belief counteracts with that inner critic. And the inner critic sounds really powerful because you don't do anything to act against it. But the moment that you say to your inner critic, and I think it really does start with the conversation that you have with your inner critic, if you say the words, well, let's see, like, let's see how this translates in action. Like, my inner critic is telling me that I could never do this, I don't have the skill set for it, that I, fill in the blank, whatever criticism that you're battling with right now. But if you challenge that rhetoric, if you challenge that narrative with let's see, that is the baseline for self-belief. And as you continue pushing with that let's see lens, that let's see attitude, you are silencing and you are disenfranchising, removing the power of that inner critic. And I think that when you remove power from your inner critic, you're actually taking that energy and you're shifting it over to self-belief. And self-belief starts with just giving yourself the opportunity to prove that inner critic differently. And I think that when you put yourself in that position where you're like, okay, well, this is what my inner critic is saying, you'll find that there's going to be a point in your journey where that inner critic is just completely silent, because you've done all that you need to do to show to yourself that, yeah, actually the inner critic was wrong. Like, I can do this. It was tough. I mean, the journey was a bit of an uphill climb. The learning curve was challenging, but it wasn't insurmountable. And a lot of what the inner critic tries to establish is that there's certain things that are just beyond our scope of ability to attain. And I think that that is always a false narrative. There's never anything that is beyond anyone's ability to attain. The journey just might translate differently for each of us, because all of us have different starting points. We have privileges in certain areas and we have restrictions in other areas, but none of those things are so fixed that we can't push against them and break through those barriers with just a little bit of self-belief. And if you recognize the power of self-belief, and you'll recognize that the moment you start to cultivate it by pushing against your inner critic, then you recognize that you are truly limitless and there are no boundaries to how much of your potential you can tap into in your given lifetime. And my last tip for this conversation, when you think about your journey and the ways that you'd like to convert your insecurities into confidence, is you really need to, and you will as you begin this process and this individual journey, is you need to learn to devalue the criticism and the cynicism of others. And I think the best way to start to devalue the criticism and the cynicism of others is that a lot of people, in fact, I don't think that there is any exception to the rule that I'm about to give you, and I'm like very tentative about being very strongly positioned in any given thing. Like, I think even where I feel very confident, I don't like to be absolutist in the opinions that I make here on my platform in case I ever need to renege. But this is an opinion that I don't think I'll ever renege on. And I think that other people's criticism and their cynicism is deeply rooted in their own insecurity of their own inability to accomplish the same thing. And a lot of what people do is, if they feel that there's an association that exists between you and them, and they feel that they can't accomplish something, they project that inability onto you. Because if you are associated in some way, shape, or form, then you're at the same level, to whatever degree. Or they might convince themselves that, we're at the same level in this area, but in other areas I feel superior to them. And because they're rooted in insecurity, that sense of superiority gives them a place in their own mind, like it gives them status over you. And insecurity people are driven by status. They're very status-driven individuals. They're going to keep a ceiling on your progress because it allows them to feel comfortable with their lack of progress. And the way that they build a ceiling on your progress is through cynicism and criticism, right? They criticize your efforts. They're cynical about your ability to push forward because they're very status focused, and they're not status focused by way of projecting a specific status on you. Even if that's what it sounds like with their words, they're status focused by way of preserving their own sense of status over and above you. And the only way that they can accomplish that is by convincing you to not pursue the things you want to pursue, by projecting that cynicism and that criticism onto you. And you need to recognize that that's poison. season to your progress and to your journey that will enable you to convert your insecurities into confidence. And a lot of what will happen when it is that you start pushing the boundaries on your ceiling and breaking the ceiling that is over and above you is it will change the associations you have at that level, right? You're gonna be outgrowing and evolving past those specific associations. And this can happen in your family, it can happen in your personal life with your friendships, it can also happen professionally. And I think you need to recognize that when it comes to growth, when it comes to transformation, when it comes to converting specific insecurities to confidence, that process is gonna change you intrinsically. There are gonna be aspects of you that you outgrow as you build your path towards confidence. And at different parts of you, you start to evolve those different parts of you, then you need to realize that you're also going to be outgrowing the people that you related to, that you connected to, because those parts of you were still active, alive, and well. And so you need to embrace the journey, embrace the change that you're going to experience. And when you grow, you outgrow a lot. I think the thing that we don't like to talk about when it comes to growth is growth comes with loss. It comes with pain, it comes with sacrifice, but there's so much benefit that comes out of it as well. But we need to be open and receptive to the change, and we need to adapt as the change takes place. We need to recognize that we'll be shocked about the associations that we thought could come along with us that absolutely could not, right? Like nothing is permanent when you think about growth. In fact, growth in and of itself is really at its core impermanence, but we don't realize to what extent it really does translate across every aspect of our lives until we really start to dedicate our time and attention to growth. So that's just food for thought for you, because any step that you make that will enable you to convert any insecurity to confidence is a commitment to your growth. You just need to be committed to the idea that everything is subject to change if your focus and your commitment is on your own inherent growth and building that confidence intrinsically and building a very deeply rooted sense of confidence, which is based on experience, really. In any case, that is the subject for today. Those are the 4 points of reference that I wanted to provide you, tips, perspectives, you can call them whatever you'd like. Before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will be going live for the foreseeable future, at least twice a month, every month on our Facebook page. Definitely be sure to join in. We facilitate these sessions in such a way where we're cultivating the life skills and the critical thinking to cultivate more meaning and fulfillment out of life. Now, these events are paid events, so if you do see yourself participating on an ongoing basis, then be part of our #GameChanger community. And ways that you can do that is you can purchase one of our membership plans. It gives you unlimited access to any of our live events, and we have a calendar built out for the full 2022 year, not to mention workshops and webinars over and above those live events. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, if you want to be part of the Game Changer community, then I am so happy to take you in the fold, to have you participate in our community as we grow and evolve. And I look forward to chatting with you soon. We'll talk to you later.